Beloved chosen one, pause for a moment, quiet your heart, and let the chaos of the world dissolve into silence. That number, 10 glowing boldly on the thumbnail, wasn't just a fleeting image that caught your eye and led you to click this video. In Christian spirituality, 1010 holds profound significance, often referencing John chapter 10 verse 10 in the Bible, where Jesus declares that the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But he has come that we may have life and have it to the full. Echoed as 10. It amplifies this divine promise, heralding a season of divine revelation, spiritual awakening, and the unveiling of truths hidden from you until this very moment. This is a heavenly signal that God is about to disclose something extraordinary, a truth the enemy never wanted you to grasp. Have you felt a restlessness, a sense that hidden forces have worked against you, or a longing for clarity about the path ahead? Perhaps you faced closed doors, unexplained delays, or moments of confusion that left you questioning. These are not mere coincidences. They are divine signposts leading you to this pivotal moment where God is ready to reveal what has been concealed. This video is no ordinary encounter. It's a divine appointment, a sacred turning point where heaven's truth will illuminate your path. Can you feel the anticipation building? That inner prompting is the Holy Spirit calling you to open your heart and receive what God is about to unveil. To anchor this moment, drop 1010 in the comments, along with your city or country declaring, "I'm ready for the revelation." The number 10 is a celestial beacon reminding you that God's truth is greater than any obstacle or deception you've faced. I invite you to join a global community of chosen ones by sharing in the comments where you're watching from your city or country, and type 1010 to declare your readiness to receive God's truth. Chosen one, take a brief moment to reflect. Avoid allowing your focus to wander, for the divine realm has momentarily silenced the surrounding distractions to murmur profound truths directly into your soul. This occurrence is far from accidental. It isn't the result of some digital formula. Instead, it represents a carefully arranged intervention from above. You find yourself on the brink of discovering an element that has remained concealed from your awareness until now. Something destined to profoundly unsettle you, restore your inner wounds, and rouse you to recognize your authentic self. You've sensed it deep within, right? That persistent pull at your emotions, the conviction that your existence was always meant to transcend the mundane. Despite your efforts to conform and fit in, an inner force continually emerged, refusing to be suppressed. You stand out uniquely. You have been designated for a special role. You are indeed selected for this path. Allow me to address the heavy burdens you've shouldered for so long. Those evenings when you believed your sorrow went unnoticed by anyone. Those afternoons when you navigated daily routines with a facade of normalcy, all while your emotions suffered in secret. Each act of disloyalty, each instance of dismissal, each unspoken injury, none of these experiences were pointless or lost. The challenges that aim to overwhelm you have instead demonstrated that the celestial powers have imprinted their seal upon your being. After all, an individual marked as chosen cannot be shattered by the same forces that dismantle the masses. Visualize this scenario, a tiny seed embedded deep within a shadowy earth. It appears entombed, overlooked, shielded from any illumination. However, in reality, it isn't merely buried. It has been deliberately sown. And as the appropriate period arrives, what once seemed devoid of vitality will surge upward with an irresistible momentum. That describes your situation precisely. The phase of your life spent in obscurity wasn't a form of discipline. It served as essential groundwork. This explains the intensity of those nagging uncertainties that plagued you. It clarifies why those who opposed you grinned smugly during your moments of faltering. They glimpsed fragments of your future potential long before you recognized it yourself. Adversarial forces invariably target elements of significant worth. Are you beginning to grasp it? The resistance you've encountered was actually a veiled foretelling of what lies ahead. Chosen ones, pay close attention to my words. This particular instant isn't merely for casually browsing onward. It's an opportunity to absorb the insights and embrace a transformative understanding. If these statements are resonating deeply within you, allow your inner essence to respond. Leave a remark in the section below. Enter your affirmation of agreement. Distribute this content so that the anointing can extend even wider. And if you haven't already joined as a follower, take that step immediately, for the forthcoming communications from the divine aren't simply casual, uplifting notes. They represent a detailed guide leading toward your elevation. Pay careful heed. The book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 21, states that numerous schemes reside within an individual's mind, yet ultimately it is the Almighty's intention that triumphs. Can you perceive the significance? These declarations aren't static on parchment. They possess vitality. They illuminate why countless meticulously crafted strategies of yours appeared to disintegrate while unexpected pathways abruptly materialized. The reality is that the blueprint from above has consistently surpassed your own designs. What you perceived as postponement was actually a heavenly rerouting. What registered as deprivation was the Creator ensuring your path led to a superior triumph. Permit me to share a narrative with you. There existed a gentleman who envisioned a specific trajectory for his life. Each endeavor he pursued ended in failure, and disillusionment trailed him relentlessly. However, in the ensuing years, he came to understand that if those avenues had succeeded, he would have ventured into catastrophe. In contrast, the divine force redirected him toward a position of substantial impact that exceeded his wildest imaginings. His personal ambitions faltered, but the Supreme's objective endured. And today, he embodies tranquility and command that his individual capabilities could never have constructed. This identical framework is manifesting in your circumstances. You've misinterpreted those barred entrances as penalties, whereas they functioned as safeguards in disguise. You assumed dismissal equated to defeat, but it was actually the celestial method of shielding you from inauthentic prospects. The Almighty has never deserted you. He has been steering your course throughout. Envision yourself as a stream cascading from a peak. Occasionally, boulders compel the flow to alter its course. To your perspective, it seems like a disruption, but truthfully, it's purposeful navigation, guaranteeing that the waters arrive at the lowland where vitality anticipates flourishing. That's the manner in which the Creator has been molding your journey. What you regarded as a hold-up was intentional architecture. Refrain from resenting the periods of anticipation. Avoid condemning the quiet intervals. Each instant is sculpting you for an exposure that will mute the deceptions uttered against your identity. Therefore, absorb this message and permit it to penetrate profoundly. You aren't behind schedule. You haven't been disregarded. You aren't being ignored. You are selected, safeguarded, and on the verge of being disclosed. And if this strikes a chord within your essence, indicate it immediately in the remarks by entering the numeral 111, serving as a foretelling affirmation that you elect to harmonize with the developments the Almighty is initiating. This marks merely the commencement. What you're poised to observe will validate all the subtle messages the Divine has conveyed during your most serene times. Remain engaged. Continue attuning yourself. Stay prepared. This disclosure holds sanctity. Advance without apprehension, for the celestial grip remains firm upon you. Your era of obscurity concludes, and your radiance will ascend, irrepressible and immovable. You've borne loads that surpass what most could fathom. While observers caught only glimpses of your grin, they remained oblivious to the oppression weighing upon your core during the late hours. The fact is, you've traversed tempests that ought to have overwhelmed you entirely. Nevertheless, you persist in existence. This reality by itself serves as confirmation that you transcend the average. Survival amid adversity is the hallmark of being designated. Recall those occasions when you sensed yourself descending into despair, struggling for air amid surges of letdown. Hostile influences murmured that your endurance was impossible. Yet inexplicably, a resilience emerged from within that defied explanation. You remained upright when collapse seemed inevitable. You persevered where others might have shattered. This wasn't solely your achievement. This was the divine imprinting its claim upon you, asserting that you are under its possession. Your marks of hardship aren't sources of embarrassment. They represent hallowed testimonies that you've endured intense trials without being utterly destroyed, akin to precious metal refined amid blazes. Your existence has undergone examination. Each disloyalty, each dismissal, each sealed pathway, although agonizing, contributed to your purification. Absent those experiences, you wouldn't possess the profound insight you hold today. You've been molded for a loftier objective. I'd like you to envision a sturdy tree positioned amid a fierce gale. The gusts scream. Precipitation assaults its limbs. To an untrained observer, it appears compromised, yet beneath the surface, an invisible process unfolds. The foundations extend further, seeking enhanced stability. Once the turmoil subsides, the tree isn't diminished. It stands resolute. That's your essence. Each gale that assaulted you merely drove your anchors deeper into the bedrock of belief, further into the bedrock of your vocation. A particular passage encapsulates this reality with remarkable precision. The second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 7, affirms that we possess this invaluable asset within fragile containers to demonstrate that this extraordinary might originates from the Almighty and not from our own efforts. Can you sense the profundity of that statement? You embody that vulnerable receptacle, delicate, fractured, disregarded by numerous individuals. Nevertheless, within your core, the divine has concealed a priceless gem. The fissures from your history don't render you ineligible. They enable the divine illumination to radiate outward. Your vulnerabilities have merely highlighted his potency. That's the reason you continue to endure. Reflect upon the disloyalties that almost dismantled you. The connections that disintegrated, the prospects that vanished into thin air. Everyone felt like a setback. Yet each one removed elements that couldn't accompany you into your forthcoming purpose. The Creator never planned for you to haul unnecessary baggage into your subsequent phase. He permitted those aspects to detach not as retribution, but to ensure your preservation. I recollect the account of a gentleman who forfeited all in a solitary year: his occupation, his companions, even his well-being. During that period, he believed his existence had concluded. However, amid that devastation, he encountered the divine presence more intimately than previously. Gradually, vitality re-emerged. Fresh avenues appeared, and the individual recognized that what had been removed was never intended to endure. In contrast, what replaced it possessed everlasting value. His sorrows had nourished the terrain for an unanticipated bounty. This identical configuration encircles your path. Avoid scorning your marks of hardship. Refrain from concealing your narrative. The elements you once viewed as disqualifying will eventually transform into the witness that inspires countless others. Your anguish is evolving into a foundation for influence. Your injuries are converting into profound understanding. Visualize yourself as an intricate artwork composed of fragments. Components fractured, dispersed, indistinct, yet under the guidance of a supreme creator. Every shard is collected and positioned to form something far more exquisite than its prior state. Your fragmentation hasn't been squandered. It's being assembled into a magnificent creation that will echo splendor exceeding your current vision. Chosen one, you aren't characterized by the forces that attempted to annihilate you. You are defined by the entity that sustained you. Even amid the quietude, even during the evenings when you pleaded for clarity, you are being supported. If you attune yourself attentively, you can nearly detect it. The murmur from above declaring, "I have maintained you for precisely this era." This explains the uniqueness of your existence. Others might collapse under milder strains, but you've been upheld because your narrative bears substantial importance. What you've withstood isn't arbitrary affliction. It's celestial readiness, and shortly the individuals who previously disregarded you will perceive the gem concealed within. Therefore, inhale deeply. Permit your emotions to find solace. What nearly shattered you has already yielded to the reality that you are selected. And absolutely no force can obliterate that imprint. You've experienced it. Those discreet stares, those concealed sneers, the mutterings after you departed, the space they feigned warmth in your company. yet their intentions harbored sharpened blades aimed at your vulnerability. This isn't a figment of your mind. This constitutes the essence of being designated. Those incapable of grasping your brilliance have schemed covertly for ages to witness your luminescence fade. But absorb this truth. Every clandestine plot is on the cusp of exposure, for the Almighty has vowed that no concealed matter will stay shrouded indefinitely. The disguises are faltering, the duplicitous speeches will be muted, the facts will surge forth like an uncontainable stream bursting its barriers. Have you observed how the antagonism escalated each time you approached a significant advancement? It wasn't mere happenstance. As you neared harmony with your vocation, the shadows grew increasingly frantic. It manipulated individuals into resenting you, defaming you, mischaracterizing you, and temporarily you doubted your own identity. You pondered, am I genuinely the person the Almighty describes? But even amid that bewilderment, an inner resilience refused to submit. A sacred text illuminates this juncture with striking lucidity. The book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 8, mentions that, although I have stumbled, I shall ascend. Although I dwell in obscurity, the Sovereign will serve as my illumination. This serves as the rallying cry of your existence. You were toppled, yet you didn't remain prostrate. You navigated through gloom, yet the radiance located you, and presently, as the divine commences to disclose what was obscured, those who plotted against you will comprehend that their machinations merely fueled your ascent. Reflect upon Joseph. Deceived by his siblings, traded into bondage, abandoned in confinement, his adversaries assumed they had interred him, but truthfully they merely propelled him nearer to sovereignty. The treachery functioned as the conduit to his fate. Similarly, for you, the mutterings, the intrigues, the subtle underminings, they weren't diversions. They represented celestial placement. Envision a gemstone subjected to immense compression. It doesn't protest. It doesn't implore for mercy. It merely persists until the compression eases and its splendor emerges. That luster dazzles those who previously derided the unpolished rock. You embody that gemstone and the disclosure draws near. Chosen one. The era has arrived to cease absorbing the fabrications proclaimed over you. They never constituted the ultimate decree. They were efforts to divert you from the variety already etched in the celestial records. You represent illumination. You bear the imprint. You are irrepressible. Now I extend an invitation for you to embark on a gesture of belief. Inscribed in the remarks, truth will stand. These trio of terms aren't merely characters on a display. They form an assertion that no calumny, no deceit, no disloyalty can entomb what the Almighty has decreed over your existence. Deceptions may clamor, but they cannot stifle fate. When you inscribe it, you're proclaiming, I harmonize with the celestial judgment, not human indictments. This assertion isn't about safeguarding your reputation, it's about aligning with the Almighty's assurance. It constitutes an expression of ethereal rebellion against every erroneous statement. As your digits form it, you're accomplishing more than merely posting. You're dispatching a foretelling indicator into the intangible domain, proclaiming that the verity of the Almighty's blueprint will perpetually surpass human conspiracies. Allow me to conclude with this imagery. A judicial chamber where allegations saturate the environment. Voices assail you, enumerating shortcomings, disseminating falsehoods. But then the arbiter stands. With a solitary rap of his mallet, he pronounces, proceedings terminated. Every erroneous statement forfeits its influence. Every gloom disperses. Every concealed adversary is hushed. That's the dynamic unfolding in your existence. Now the arbiter has issued the ruling, therefore elevate your gaze. The disclosure isn't an element to dread. It's an occurrence to embrace. For the Creator who sustained you privately is poised to affirm you publicly, and when affirmation arrives, it won't be understated. It won't lurk in obscurity. It will manifest openly and thoroughly. Those who once muttered against you will be compelled to observe your ascent. This isn't rooted in arrogance. This isn't about demonstrating their error through your personal prowess. This concerns the splendor of the Almighty being showcased via your existence. When He elevates you, no one will confuse it for serendipity. They will recognize it as His intervention, His chronology, His objective. Therefore, avoid hastening it. Refrain from anxiety when the revelation appears postponed. The identical Creator who maintained you concealed is the one who will expose you, and upon that exposure your narrative will mute every deception and exalt His reliability eternally. Something about your existence has perpetually distinguished you. Even during attempts to camouflage it, you weren't crafted to merge seamlessly with the multitude. And that's why assimilation has consistently felt like a constriction upon your inner being. Your distinctiveness isn't a flaw. It represents your emblem of mission. From early youth you discerned it while peers settled for superficial amusements. You were attracted to more profound inquiries, pursuing authentic verities. You experienced emotions with heightened intensity, envisioned with amplified profundity, and bore responsibilities that escaped others' notice. Occasionally, you speculated if an anomaly afflicted you, but the verity is that the divine had already designated you. You were segregated prior to possessing the vocabulary to articulate it. Contemplate the ancient seers. Jeremiah acknowledged that the divine message smoldered within him akin to flames confined in his framework. He couldn't disregard it even at the expense of his ease. Moses, designated from infancy, was appointed to liberate his kin long before comprehending it personally. Mary, summoned to bear what no other could, was isolated not for exclusion but for sacred intent. This clarifies why solitude has trailed you. This elucidates why bonds frequently seemed unstable, why you never quite integrated into the groups you presumed were yours. It wasn't an exception. It was rerouting. The divine never envisioned you diluting your mission by conforming to a collective incapable of grasping your fate. Ponder this analogy. Lubricant and liquid can be introduced into the identical container, yet they will never blend. They differ fundamentally in the same manner. Your essence cannot completely fuse with worldly conventions. You are fashioned to distinguish yourself, and that segregation serves as testimony to the celestial touch upon your existence. A sacred passage encapsulates this enigma. The letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 18, confirms that I regard our current afflictions as unworthy of comparison to the splendor destined to manifest within us. You perceive it, don't you? The very discomfort of uniqueness, the pang of misinterpretation, the sorrows shed in isolation. None are squandered. They represent the labor pains of a magnificence that will shortly emerge through you. Your uniqueness is the fertile ground where insight will flourish. I recall the tale of a lady who perpetually felt displaced. Her acquaintances pursued transient delights, but she yearned for an indefinable essence. They ridiculed her gravity, deemed her overly profound, and abandoned her. For years, she endured the anguish of solitude. Yet within that seclusion, her inner self sharpened. She mastered attuning to the divine murmurs amid quietude. Subsequently, upon entering her mission, the identical individuals who once scorned her sought her counsel. Her distinctiveness served as her portal. This mirrors your trajectory. The agony of non-belonging has actually preserved you for impending developments. If you'd been wholly embraced by every assembly, you would have thinned your essence to match theirs. But the divine has been protecting you, preserving your brilliance from diminishment via the allure of uniformity. Conceive of yourself as a beacon transported through obscurity. If it intermingles with gloom, it forfeits its blaze, but maintained separately, it sustains its inferno until required. That's your identity. You aren't peculiar. You are tactical chosen one. Embrace your uniqueness. What society deems excessive, the divine deems sufficient. What others classify as mismatched, the Almighty designates as segregated. You serve as a mobile indicator of sacred intent. Therefore, when isolation stings, recall that even gems form in seclusion under duress, distant from public scrutiny. And upon emergence, they don't express regret for gleaming. They don't contract to ease others. They merely emanate the splendor instilled within. That splendor resides in you. It has been obscured, examined, purified, but it exists. And upon the arrival of disclosure's phase, you'll comprehend why assimilation eluded you. Your uniqueness was never exclusion. It was groundwork for insight. Permit these statements to embed profoundly into your core. You haven't been overlooked, you aren't flawed, and you aren't misplaced. You occupy precisely the position the divine ordains. You are unique because you are selected. And that uniqueness is poised to become the definitive evidence of your fate. You won't express remorse for gleaming. You won't diminish for convenience. Society will ultimately recognize it. Your uniqueness has perpetually been the coronet the divine bestowed upon you. Life presents instances when murmurs of fate encircle you. You might not initially acknowledge them, a vision that persists in your recollection, a statement uttered by someone ages ago that continues to resonate, or an inexplicable subtle agitation within your emotions. These aren't coincidences. These represent the tender prompts from the ethereal essence directing you toward an elevated summons. Have you noted how these murmurs frequently manifest during exhaustion? They arrive akin to precipitation on parched terrain, reminding you that aridity isn't eternal. They embody the Creator's method of affirming, "I haven't disregarded you." And occasionally, what appears as the minutest indicator transforms into the precise validation required to persist onward. One evening, a gentleman on the verge of relinquishing his conviction experienced a straightforward vision. He envisioned himself grasping a taper amid a shadowy ravine. The taper appeared minuscule, its blaze overly delicate, yet wherever he proceeded, gloom dissipated. He awoke with moisture in his gaze, comprehending that the vision conveyed that even his tiniest luminescence could dispel substantial obscurity. That wasn't merely a vision, that was fate murmuring to him. Similarly, for you, each prompt, each vision, each abrupt recollection of sacred text that surfaces in your essence at the opportune instant, the divine endeavors to seize your focus. Avoid dismissing these as arbitrary notions. They function as markers. They constitute strands in the broader narrative the Almighty is crafting for your existence. A passage reminds us of this variety. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3 asserts that the insight anticipates a designated era. It addresses the conclusion and won't demonstrate falsity, although it tarries. Anticipate it. It will assuredly arrive and won't postpone. These statements remind you that the murmurs aren't delusions. They serve as previews of impending events. Your anticipation isn't futile. Your endurance isn't squandered. What the Almighty has proclaimed won't falter regardless of the duration for manifestation. Consider a musical ensemble preparing prior to the performance's commencement. To certain auditors, it resembles discord, haphazard, and disjointed, but to the director, it's readiness. Then abruptly, the tools synchronize and elegance inundates the space. Your existence might resemble dispersed tones presently, but the divine has already orchestrated the melody, and the murmurs are the signals urging you to persevere until the harmony initiates. Now, permit me to express from my core. If this communication has impacted you, if these statements are nourishing your inner self akin to moisture on arid terrain, then remain nearby. If this message resonates with you, indicate it with a straightforward approval. Your minor gesture resembles a wave that propels the communication onward. Join as a follower so you don't overlook the progression of forthcoming content. Distribute this with an individual you recognize is awaiting their personal validation. Because frequently, the Almighty conveys upliftment via your readiness to relay it. And if you sense guidance solely if your inner essence prompts it, contemplate contributing to this endeavor through generosity. View it not as compensation, not as compulsion, but as sowing a kernel in productive terrain, just as a luminary glows more intensely when lubricant is introduced. Your liberality transforms into the lubricant that sustains this luminescence for additional individuals requiring it. You are never obligated, never coerced. This isn't an exchange, it's an enticement. Visualize a stream coursing unhindered. When you opt to contribute, you're merely enhancing the flow, ensuring the liquid extends farther and satisfies more parched spirits. There existed a youthful lady who contributed the tiniest sum she could afford. She experienced embarrassment, deeming it trivial. But subsequently, she received correspondence from an individual across the globe who had accessed the material her contribution assisted in maintaining. That person inscribed, "You rescued me during my deepest despair." The lady recognized her modest kernel bore perpetual significance. That's what I imply when I state your assistance isn't about coercion. It's about involvement. You integrate into the evolving narrative. You integrate into the wonder, yet absorb my words distinctly. Whether you contribute or not, whether you bestow or merely attune the message will still locate you. You aren't cherished less. You aren't esteemed less. This summons isn't about stipulations. It's about prospects, because the paramount aspect persists. Murmurs of fate encircle you. They affirm that your strides are directed, your periods are infused with intent, and your existence is progressing precisely as the divine has planned. And upon the complete melody's rendition, when the insight enters its designated era, you'll retrospect and observe that each murmur was a strand interweaving you toward this juncture. Chosen one. Your auditory senses haven't misled you. Those murmurs are authentic. They represent the resonance of the divine readying to disclose your fate. What you previously termed exclusion was never intended to injure you. It served as safeguarding. Each entrance that sealed each prospect that eluded your grasp, each bond that appeared to dissolve inexplicably. Each of those instances was the celestial intervention protecting you. You didn't perceive it then. You wept. You interrogated. You even inquired if the Almighty had forsaken you. But the verity is that the precise denial you believed devastated everything was the barrier that prevented ruin from accessing you. It wasn't an exception. It was rerouting. Consider a voyager on a meandering trail. He reaches a bifurcation and the route he craves most is obstructed. Irritated, he proceeds along the sole remaining pathway. At its termination, he discovers security sustenance and a fresh commencement. Only subsequently does he discover that the initial route harbored snares. That's your situation. The divine has directed your strides even amid disillusionment. The sacred text illustrates this vividly. The book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5, reminds us that sorrow may endure through the evening, but delight arrives with dawn. You were sorrowful when entrances closed. You were sorrowful when individuals departed. You sorrowed when schemes disintegrated into nothingness. But absorb my words, the lamentation is transient. The sorrows of the night were fleeting. Delight is ascending with the morning. The elements you believed fractured you were readying the terrain for something immovable to develop. Examine. Joseph anew dismissed by his siblings, cast into an abyss, traded as a bondsman imprisoned. Each phase resembled exclusion. Yet every progression advanced him nearer to authority. What appeared as deprivation was celestial synchronization. Without the abyss, he wouldn't have attained sovereignty. Without the treachery, he wouldn't have shouldered the mantle of power that preserved civilizations. Similarly for you. You assumed you were being forsaken, but you were being situated. Visualize a herdsman directing his flock across a lowland. Abruptly, he separates one animal from the group. To the animal, it feels isolated and unjust. But what the animal can't perceive is the chasm ahead that the herdsman averted it from tumbling into. That's what the Almighty has executed for you. Each postponement, each deviation, each refusal, these were compassions concealed. Avoid scorning the intervals of anticipation. They aren't squandered durations. They represent phases where foundations deepen, conviction fortifies, and perception sharpens. What resembled a suspension was the divine ensuring you wouldn't proceed unprepared. And now, the environment encircling you is transforming. The locations you believed had overlooked you will transform into the arena of your disclosure. The exclusion will shortly become the witness that validates your designation, but I desire you to issue an affirmation in conviction. Inscribe this numeral in the remarks 818. Why 818? Because it embodies a foretelling depiction. The initial 8 symbolizes a fresh inception, the commencement of something novel, following what resembled a conclusion. The 1 signifies harmony and celestial arrangement, a prompt that your strides aren't haphazard, but instituted by the Almighty. The concluding 8 verifies that following the sequence of anguish, a novel sequence of renewal is ascending. By inscribing 818, you're proclaiming that you embrace the fresh inception, you proceed in harmony, and you're prepared for renewal. This gesture isn't mysticism, it's concordance. When you enter 818, you're implanting a foretelling kernel into your own tomorrow. You're declaring that exclusion has forfeited its potency and safeguarding is the predominant theme of your narrative. Contemplate this. A ceramist molding clay doesn't elucidate every compression of his palm to the clay. He merely labors until the configuration is prepared. The clay might not comprehend why it's being compressed, why segments are being remolded, why it's being rotated so vigorously. Yet ultimately, the clay evolves into a container robust enough to hold something valuable. That's been your path. You aren't discarded clay. You are selected clay under the supreme artisan's guidance. Therefore, avoid lamenting what you've forfeited. Commemorate what you've been spared. Each sealed entrance, each withheld prospect, each dismissal you've endured was the divine declaring, not this direction, not this occasion, not this snare. Chosen one, find encouragement. The identical guidance that sealed those entrances is now readying to unveil new ones. Entrances that won't injure you, but will elevate you. Entrances that synchronize with your authentic mission. Recall this perpetually. What resembled exclusion was truly safeguarding. What registered as postponement was truly readiness. And what appeared as quietude was the Almighty meticulously composing your narrative. Elevate your gaze. Your dawn is emerging, your delight is approaching, and your bedrock is immovable. There arrives an era when quietude can no longer restrain what the divine has ordained. For an extended period, deceptions and erroneous designations have been affixed to your identity. Statements uttered in resentment, in unawareness, or in spite have attempted to characterize you. Yet what originates from acrimony cannot endure beyond what the Almighty has inscribed. Every designation that never belonged to you is poised to be stripped away. You understand the sting of misinterpretation. You comprehend the burden of being diminished to a solitary, agonizing episode while your life's volume encompasses far more. They labeled you feeble when you were actually persevering through concealed, arduous conflicts. They deemed you undeserving when the divine had already imprinted you with purpose. They evaluated you based on instances of hardship while overlooking the resilience required merely to rise anew. But absorb this, the divine is inverting the storyline. The statements proclaimed over you in harshness are poised to be muted, and in their stead verity will resound. Where they once ridiculed, they will astonish. Where they once questioned, they will proclaim, undoubtedly the Almighty's touch rests upon this individual. The sacred text itself bears witness to this actuality. The second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, declares that the Almighty hasn't bestowed upon us an essence of timidity, but of might of affection and of rational thought. Do you grasp the implication? Timidity, disgrace, and baseless allegations were never your legacy. They served as instruments of adversity, crafted to constrain you, but the Almighty hasn't abandoned you vulnerable. He has instilled within you an essence of might empowerment to shatter restraints, an essence of affection, fortitude to pardon what once inflicted deep wounds, a rational thought, lucidity to distinguish verity amid encircling deceptions. Envision a judicial chamber. Prosecutors assemble, each advancing their argument. They hurl terms like projectiles, inadequacy, feeble, insufficient. Yet, abruptly, the arbiter ascends. His mallet resounds, and the judgment is issued, exonerated, reclaimed, selected. The clamor of the prosecutors diminishes because the ultimate decree perpetually belongs to the entity possessing genuine command. That judicial imagery mirrors your narrative. The celestial judgment has already muted the erroneous accounts. Recall the account of David. When Samuel arrived to consecrate the subsequent monarch, David wasn't even summoned to the assembly. His kin presumed he was overly diminutive, overly trivial, overly commonplace. Yet when the anointing flowed, it circumvented every sibling and settled upon David. The designations others assigned him didn't halt the coronet the divine had readied. Similarly, what individuals uttered about you cannot annul what the Almighty has proclaimed. Envision this: a reflective surface obscured by vapor. Temporarily, you can't discern your image distinctly. Everything appears hazy, warped. That's what the deceptions accomplished. They clouded your perception of your true self. But as the vapor dissipates, the verity surfaces. The image hasn't altered, only the obscurity has lifted. You are poised to view yourself as the divine has perpetually perceived you, devoid of distortion, devoid of erroneous designations. There exists potency in inversion. What was uttered in gloom will be overturned in illumination. What was muttered to belittle you will serve as the setting for your ascension's showcase. The identical voices that once fabricated will be hushed by the irrefutable testimony of your metamorphosis. And be assured this inversion isn't solely about affirmation. It's about disclosure. The Almighty isn't merely purifying your reputation. He is disclosing His essence through your narrative. Your advancement will bear witness to His reliability. Your ascent will amplify His splendor. Chosen ones, hear this clearly. Your silence was never a weakness. It was strength wearing the cloak of humility. You never had to scream your defense into the night because heaven itself was building a case so airtight, so undeniable that no courtroom on earth will be able to overturn it. The season you've been waiting for is no longer approaching. It is here. Right now, every false label that was ever slapped onto you is losing its glue. Every lie that tries to define you is peeling away like old paint under a blazing sun. Do not fear what people think anymore. Do not flinch at the sting of slander. You are not who they said you were. You never were. You are exactly who God says you are. Redeemed with a price no one can repay, restored with a love no one can steal, equipped with a power no one can strip away, and absolutely gloriously unstoppable. Let that truth sink all the way down into the marrow of your bones. Let it flood every room in your heart that doubt once rented. The old names are crumbling like dry dust in your hands. The chains that once rattled when you walked are snapping link by link. Truth is rising like a tidal wave, and nothing can hold it back. That long season of quiet you endured wasn't punishment, wasn't rejection, wasn't God turning His back. It was the sacred runway being lengthened so that when you finally take off, you soar higher, faster, and farther than anyone thought possible. The silence was the stage being set. The stillness was the spotlight being adjusted. And now the curtains are parting, the lights are coming up, and the one who wrote your story is stepping forward to announce your real name in front of the entire universe. So walk forward, not with hesitation, not with apology, but with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who knows exactly whose child they are. The voices that tried to shrink you are growing faint like echoes bouncing off canyon walls long after the shout has died. A new sound is rising clear, strong, and impossible to silence. It's the sound of truth breaking loose. It's the sound of freedom ringing out. It's the sound of heaven itself declaring over you, "This one is mine." I chose them before they took their first breath. I called them when no one else saw their worth. I kept them when everyone else walked away. And now I am unveiling them in my perfect timing. No devil in hell and no opinion on earth can overrule that decree. So lift your head high, square your shoulders, let the world see the fire in your eyes. Your identity has been restored. Your voice has been set free. Your destiny is no longer hiding. It is stepping into the light, and it is breathtaking. There are seasons when God intentionally hides the people He loves most. To the casual onlooker, it looks like you've been forgotten. To the shallow-hearted, it seems you've been sidelined, passed over, or buried alive. Social media scrolls on without you. Invitations stop coming. Rooms that once welcomed you now close their doors, but what looks like rejection is actually divine protection. What feels like being overlooked is actually being undercover. You haven't been abandoned, you've been kept. You've been tucked safely under the shadow of the Almighty's wing until the exact second your unveiling would do the most good and bring Him the most glory. Think about it for a moment. The most valuable things on earth are never left lying around in plain sight. Gold isn't scattered on the surface for anyone to grab. It's buried deep, guarded by layers of rock and time. Diamonds don't sparkle on the sidewalk. They're locked inside rough stone, waiting for pressure and fire to reveal their brilliance. Pearls aren't dangling from trees. They're hidden inside rough shells at the bottom of the ocean, formed through years of quiet irritation turning into beauty. And the rarest treasures of all, they're kept in vaults, wrapped in velvet, guarded day and night. Because their worth demands protection. That's you. You are heaven's rarest treasure. Your season of hiddenness wasn't punishment, it was preservation. God refused to let you be exposed too early, picked apart by critics, exploited by opportunists, or crushed under the weight of premature spotlight. He hid you so the enemy couldn't locate you fully. He silenced the noise so he could speak clearly to your heart. He let the world forget your name for a little while, so that when he speaks it again, the whole world will have no choice but to remember it forever. Now the vault is opening. The shell is cracking. The stone is being split wide. The refiner's fire has done its perfect work, and what's emerging isn't just beautiful, it's radiant, unbreakable, and ready. You are hidden for a reason. You are kept for such a time as this. And when you step out now, fully seen, fully known, fully yourself, no one will be able to deny that only God could have done this. They won't applaud your talent alone. They'll fall silent in awe of the one who kept you, shaped you, and is now unveiling you to a world that desperately needs what only you can carry. So come out of hiding, chosen one. The season of being underestimated is over. The season of being misunderstood is finished. The season of shining in full glory has begun. Walk in it. Own it. The world is waiting and heaven is cheering. Even the Savior himself resided 30 years in anonymity prior to embarking on communal service. Those obscured years weren't squandered. They were indispensable. They represented the periods where insight, resilience, and development established roots. Absent them, the 3 years of his observable service wouldn't have borne equivalent influence. Similarly, your obscured phases have been sculpting you for the significance of impending events. The sacred texts remind us of this concept. The book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, proclaims that the sovereign will contend on your behalf. You need merely maintain composure. That composure isn't passivity, it's confidence. While you sensed sidelined, the Almighty was displacing conflicts from your trajectory. While you sensed overlooked, he was readying the arena so that upon your eventual advancement, no entity or individual can refute that it's his touch upon you. Envision a kernel embedded in the terrain for extended periods. It remains interred, invisible, mute. If assessed solely by exterior, one might conclude it's lifeless, but profoundly within vitality forms. Foundations extend downward, potency accumulates inside the casing, and only upon the opportune moment does the verdant sprout penetrate the surface. The kernel was never deceased. It was obscured to thrive more robustly. That's your narrative. There exists a lady whose existence illustrates this depiction. She sensed undetectable for years, disregarded in her profession, overlooked by acquaintances, dismissed by kin. She entreated, but alterations seemed absent. Then one day a prospect materialized unexpectedly, and all she had nurtured privately was abruptly demanded. Her expression conveyed insight. Her endurance generated resolutions, and her tenacity astonished those nearby. What they had previously dismissed became the precise endowment that elevated her. Her concealment had been readiness. Similarly, for you, the quietude you've endured wasn't squandered duration. The conflicts you've waged privately have prepared you for triumphs publicly. The sorrows you've shed in isolation have nourished the terrain of a bounty that will astound multitudes. Envision a carver laboring covertly. Behind sealed entrances, he sculpts, abrades, and molds a slab of rock. No one comprehends his actions. No one commends. But upon the entrance's eventual opening, a magnificent creation is disclosed that couldn't have been fashioned hastily or publicly. That's how the divine has been molding you, obscured, purified, perfected. Your anonymity has served as your barrier. Visibility prematurely would have rendered you susceptible to assaults you weren't yet prepared to resist. But the divine has delayed until your foundations are profound, your protection robust, and your essence ready. The disclosure won't dismantle you, it will crown you, chosen one. Avoid scorning your obscured phase. Don't confuse quietude with non-existence. The reality that you've been concealed is the most evident testimony that you bear something meriting safeguarding. Common receptacles are exposed openly, only assets are secured until their worth can be esteemed. Now perceive it. An agitation stirs in the environment, the veil is elevating, the illumination is penetrating. You won't persist in gloom because the ordained era of disclosure approaches. And upon its arrival, all will recognize that the anticipation merited it. Absorb this variety into your core. Your concealment wasn't retribution, it was conservation. It was ready. It was the affectionate guidance of the Almighty, ensuring that upon your era's arrival you'll stand resolute, unyielding, and luminous. Therefore, maintain composure a bit longer. Trust the progression. For shortly the quietude will conclude, the veil will rise, and your existence will bear witness that the divine conceals solely what it plans to disclose in magnificence. And upon the disclosure's arrival, it won't be minor or obscured. It will be irrefutable, luminous, and irrepressible evidence that your concealed phase was the divine's supreme endowment to your fate. An emergence is occurring within you that defies denial. It isn't conceit and it isn't haughtiness. It represents hallowed command awakening. You've borne the burden of quietude, withstood the pang of dismissal, traversed lowlands of concealment, and yet something immovable has been crafted inside you. This command isn't human fabricated. It emanates from the celestial throne itself. When the Almighty designates an existence, it bears an aura that shadows cannot replicate. Have you ever pondered why specific individuals opposed you, even absent justification? Why are environments transformed upon your entry into space? It's because your existence bears significance in the ethereal domain. The command within you disrupts shadowy schemes without uttering a term. This represents the command the divine has been readying you for, not to control, not to boast, but to function as a conduit of advancement, a receptacle of illumination in a realm laden with gloom. And although you might sense inadequate, occasionally recall that command isn't acquired via flawlessness. It's entrusted via yielding. The sacred texts resonate this verity. The book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9 commands, "Have I not instructed you? Be resolute and valiant. Avoid fear, avoid discouragement, for the sovereign, your creator, will accompany you wherever you proceed." Command isn't the non-existence of fear. It's the choice to advance regardless, aware that the Almighty accompanies you. Valor ascends not from your personal potency, but from His assurance of perpetual presence. That assurance is what adorns you with might, even amid frailty. Reflect upon Esther, a lady concealed for years, abruptly summoned to position in regal halls. She quivered, but her command wasn't in her tiara. It resided in her compliance. She entered a juncture that altered her kin's fate. This identical framework encircles your existence. The quivering you experience doesn't disqualify you. It validates that you're entering a domain exceeding yourself. Envision a latch crafted amid flames. By itself, it's merely alloy, unremarkable. But once molded, it possesses the capacity to unlock entrances inaccessible to others. That's your identity. Your ordeals have been the flames, your marks the configuration, and now you represent a living latch, the divine's tool to unseal what has remained locked for others. Chosen one. Command is ascending within you, not loaned, not mimicked, but genuine. The type of command that mutes deceptions without debate, that mends injuries with a solitary act of benevolence, that transforms environments because the divine accompanies you. Now, I request you to issue an affirmation of conviction. Inscribe these terms in the remarks, strength over fear. 3 straightforward terms, yet brimming with potency. When you enter them, you're proclaiming that fear won't dominate you. You're electing to proceed in the command already bestowed upon you. It's not merely a remark. It's a foretelling gesture. Each instance you articulate or inscribe it, you synchronize with Joshua's directive, resolute, valiant, never forsaken. Avoid underestimating what transpires upon declaring verity. Terms vacant. They represent ethereal kernels, and this kernel will mature into valor, into lucidity, into unyielding potency. Envision yourself positioned on a combat field. Gloom assembles. Echoes of uncertainty resound. But as you position, an illumination expands from within. You recognize it's not about your volume, but the divine's presence inside you. Adversity doesn't dread your clamor. It dreads your command. And command is what you bear. Therefore, advance even quivering, even uncertain. The command bestowed upon your existence is the divine's emblem that no resistance can eradicate. Enter the spaces that once daunted you. Confront the circumstances that once hushed you. For you are adorned in valor, equipped with potency, and escorted by the eternal presence of the Almighty. And shortly, society will observe what the divine has already proclaimed. Your command is hallowed, and your ascent cannot be halted. Your hallowed command won't perpetually bellow like thunderclaps. Occasionally, it will be as subdued as a murmur. Yet even in quietude, it bears significance. Avoid confusing mildness with frailty. Authentic command is frequently most potent when serene. Reflect upon the Savior slumbering in the vessel amid the gale. He didn't go crazy with a solitary directive. Peace, be still. The gusts complied. That's the variety of command the Almighty has entrusted to you, a command that imposes order without turmoil, that proclaims vitality without exertion. Therefore, when you sense diminutive recall, that celestial significance rests upon you, and even your most subdued stride bears eternal consequence. Your designation bears foretelling. Long prior to comprehending your identity, the divine already proclaimed significance over you. Each syllable, each resonance linked to you possesses weight. That's why adversity has labored diligently to tarnish your designation with deceptions. But it cannot eradicate what the divine engraved from the outset. Reflect momentarily upon the designations in sacred text. Abram was redesignated Abraham, signifying progenitor of multitudes, even absent offspring. Sarai transformed into Sarah, matriarch of civilizations. Jacob, formerly the trickster, was redesignated Israel, a sovereign who contended with the Almighty and triumphed. Each alteration in designation disclosed obscured fate. And akin to them, a significance rests upon your identity that resounds louder than your history's anguish. You might not bear a literal novel designation, but the divine has proclaimed one over your essence. Where individuals uttered inadequacy, the divine uttered the conqueror. Where they uttered feeble, the divine summoned you potent. Where they uttered trivial, the Almighty murmurs selected. Your authentic designation has never altered. It has merely awaited its disclosure. The sacred texts affirm this. The book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 17, promises that to the triumphant I will bestow concealed sustenance and a pale pebble with a novel designation. Do you sense the elegance of that assurance, sir? A novel designation inscribed by the Almighty Himself that no other can characterize or eradicate? It's a designation that mirrors your fate, not your injuries. It's a designation that bears perpetuity, not transient evaluation. Permit me to illustrate this with imagery. Envision a woven fabric interlaced with innumerable strands. Initially, the design appears disordered, entangled, nearly purposeless. But retreats sufficiently and abruptly, the composition materializes elaborate, exquisite, intentional. That's your existence. Each strand of delight and grief has been interlaced into a narrative that discloses your authentic identity. Your designation is the standard over that fabric, and it's magnificent. There existed a youthful gentleman who perpetually felt anonymous, as though undetectable to society. But as he matured, he commenced noticing that even amid quietude, the Almighty was molding his narrative. Years subsequently, his expression became a fountain of restoration for others, and he recognized that anonymity had actually preserved him until his ordained era. What registered as non-existence was readiness. And upon his juncture's arrival, his designation bore significance because it was linked to fate, not human perspective. Chosen one. Your designation bears foretelling too. Avoid underestimating the potency of being segregated. And here, from my core, I request you to integrate this path more intimately. If this message impacts you, indicate it with a straightforward approval. Your selection resembles a taper, ignited ablaze that assists this communication to gleam farther. Join as a follower, if you haven't already, because this isn't merely material. It's an ongoing current of vibrant statements, and I desire you to proceed alongside me within it. Distribute this communication with an individual whose identity has been wounded, someone who has overlooked their essence, because your gesture of distribution might represent the precise instant their inner self commences restoration. And if your essence stirs, contemplate assisting this endeavor. Contribute not as an obligation, but as a bestowal of lubricant introduced into a luminary. Each bestowal, substantial or minor, transforms into lubricant that sustains the blaze, enabling others to discover illumination amid their obscurity. It's never about coercion. It's about uniting the narrative, integrating the current that propels optimism beyond what a solitary voice can achieve. View it this way. A solitary droplet of liquid appears trivial, but when incorporated into a current, it assists in generating the flow that nurtures meadows and satisfies communities. Your generosity resembles that droplet. It unites with others to form a current that rejuvenates multitudes. And absorb my words distinctly. You aren't cherished less if contributing eludes you. You aren't excluded if listening is your sole capacity. You remain selected. You remain integral to this community of conviction. Generosity isn't about mandates. It's about harmony. It's the elegance of declaring, I desire to sustain this blaze for others. Now, revert to your designation. Envision it is inscribed not in pigment, but in radiance. Envision it resonating through perpetuity as the Almighty murmurs it over you. That's the identity no entity can seize. Every erroneous statement uttered against you will fall mute because the variety of your designation will surpass them all. Chosen one. Your designation is foretelling, and shortly society will observe what the divine has perpetually proclaimed over you. Every coronet bears a price. Splendor isn't distributed absent flames, and command isn't conferred absent ordeal. You comprehend this more profoundly than most, because your existence has been designated by phases of flames that appeared intolerable. And yet, through each furnace you surfaced not annihilated but purified. There exist instances you pondered, why me? Why must I traverse such extensive anguish, while others appear to navigate existence unscathed? The response is uncomplicated yet profound. Those coronated via flames bear a profundity others cannot replicate. Their command isn't superficial, it's crafted in the cauldron of affliction. Reflect upon precious metal in its unrefined state. It possesses potential, but contaminants mar its luster. Only upon introduction to flames, heat so fierce that it appears unbearable, do the contaminants ascend and incinerate. What surfaces isn't solely exquisite, but indestructible. That's what your ordeals have accomplished for you. They haven't diminished you, they've cleansed you. Sacred text resonates with this variety. The first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7, explains that these ordeals will demonstrate that your conviction is authentic. It is being examined as flames examine and cleanse precious metal, although your conviction is vastly more valuable than mere precious metal. Do you perceive it? Your conviction examined repeatedly has been validated as authentic. While others might boast of resilience during ease, you've traversed flames and still cling to your faith. That variety of conviction cannot be fabricated. It bears an aroma that all of the divine recognizes. Examine the narrative of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, cast into the furnace for declining to submit. They proceeded amid the blazes unharmed. Not only were they sustained, but they encountered the presence of one resembling the offspring of the Almighty amid the flames with them. Their narrative instructs us this: the furnace never represents the conclusion. It serves as the location of an encounter. It serves as the site where coronets are crafted. Chosen one. Reflect upon your personal flames, disloyalties that incised deeply, evenings of lamentation that appeared interminable, lowlands where optimism seemed dim. Each represented a furnace. And yet, observe yourself. You endured. More than that, you bear resilience that can't be imparted in lectures or acquired via comfort. It was flames that constructed you. Envision a blade being crafted. The forger heats the alloy, strikes it with mallet blows, cools it, and reiterates the procedure repeatedly. The strikes might appear aggressive. The flames are intolerable, but the procedure isn't intended to annihilate the blade. It's intended to mold it into something robust for combat. That's what the divine has been executing in your existence. Each strike, each blaze, each ordeal wasn't retribution. It was ready. Your coronet has been crafted in that identical flames. It isn't a coronet of comfort or superficial acclaim, but one of profundity, genuineness, and splendor. Others might bear coronets secured via transient achievement, but yours has been shaped via perseverance. And when you don it, it won't merely designate you. It will bear witness to every furnace you've traversed with the Almighty's guidance upon you. Permit me to remind you of Job, deprived of all, examined beyond comprehension. He exclaimed in torment, yet declined to denounce his originator. Ultimately, his renewal exceeded his deprivation, and his narrative became an eternal witness of conviction amid flames. Your narrative holds that identical framework. Deprivation will yield to renewal. Anguish will transform into a witness. What remains will flourish into elegance. Envision a mythical bird ascending from its own remnants. To many, the remnants resemble the conclusion, but to the bird, they represent merely the commencement of rebirth. You embody that bird. The flames didn't devour you. It birthed a variant of you that is luminous, unyielding, and coronated. Chosen one. Avoid resenting your flames. It was never intended to annihilate you. It was intended to disclose the asset already instilled within you. Absent the blazes, the contaminants would have persisted. Absent the strikes, the blade wouldn't be keen. Absent the sorrows, your conviction wouldn't gleam as it does presently. Elevate your vision. The coronet you bear isn't coincidental. It's the outcome of every conflict, every ordeal, every instant you believed survival eluded you but prevailed. And shortly, society will observe it, the luminescence of someone coronated via flames. And upon observation, they won't perceive remnants anymore. They'll perceive luminosity. They'll perceive triumph. They'll perceive a coronet crafted not in comfort, but in flames unyielding. And that coronet is yours, and it already gleams. A celestial principle operates in your existence. What is forfeited won't merely return, it will return amplified. You assumed specific episodes had concluded irrevocably. You assumed certain elements vanished eternally. Bonds, prospects, aspirations that disintegrated. Yet the divine's tenet has perpetually been renewal. Renewal never concerns restoring what was seized in identical proportion. It's about amplification, about returning in such profusion that the deprivation appears minor comparatively. Examine Job anew. All he possessed was stripped riches, kin, vitality. His companions ridiculed him, his resilience faltered, but ultimately the account states his latter periods exceeded the former. What he regained wasn't a reflection of what he forfeited. It was amplified, compressed, agitated, and abundant. Chosen one, the identical holds for you. You lamented over what was pilfered. You bore sorrow over what appeared vanished. But do you not perceive you position on the brink of amplification? The divine never squanders deprivation. It metamorphoses it. The sacred texts affirm this assurance. The book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25, vows that I will renew to you the periods that the swarm has devoured. Reflect upon that. Not merely a solitary favor, not merely a solitary prospect, but periods. Periods that registered as squandered periods engulfed by adversity. The Almighty Himself assures their renewal, and upon renewing, He doesn't return fragments. he reconstructs incompleteness. Envision a meadow ravaged by swarms, stems, denuded terrain, sterile optimism vanished. But then precipitation arrives. The terrain absorbs it. Sprouts commence ascending anew, more robust, more verdant, taller than previously. Shortly, the identical meadow that appeared desolate becomes brimming with vitality. That's the depiction of your renewal. There exists a narrative of a lady who spent decades nurturing others while her personal aspirations remained inactive. By the era she aged, she assumed it was overdue. But in her advanced years, prospects commenced flourishing. Her expression was uncovered, her endowments acknowledged, and the entrances she assumed sealed eternally opened in amplified measure. Her forfeited periods became the precise terrain where profusion developed. Similarly, for you, the aspirations you interred, the duration you assumed squandered, the phases that appeared vacant, they haven't vanished. They represent kernels resting beneath the terrain, awaiting the precipitation of renewal. And now, I extend an invitation to indicate this variety with conviction. Inscribe this numeral in the remarks, 555. Why this numeral? The triplicate 5 is a foretelling emblem of favor upon favor upon favor. 5 signifies celestial benevolence. But when amplified, it becomes the proclamation that surges of favor are being bestowed over your existence. By inscribing 555, you're proclaiming that my deprivations are transforming into bounty. Favor amplifies within me. Renewal is my share. And this isn't about mysticism. It's about concordance. You're synchronizing your voice with the divine's ordinance of amplification. When you enter it, you're implanting a proclamation into your tomorrow. My periods aren't squandered. My bounty approaches. Envision yourself grasping fragmented pottery shards. To the observer, they appear futile, but under a supreme artisan's guidance, those shards are reassembled into something more exquisite than the original, infused with precious metal in every fissure. The container is no longer delicate. It is invaluable. That's your narrative. The fissures of your history are being infused with splendor, and your existence will gleam with greater worth than previously. Chosen ones avoid despairing over what you've forfeited. What approaches will overshadow it. The bounty will mute the recollection of scarcity. The renewal will surpass the periods of deprivation. Favor upon favor upon favor. That's your legacy. Elevate your vision. Amplification advances toward you even presently. Renewal isn't solely about elements you've forfeited. It's also about the variant of yourself that anguish attempted to entomb. The mirth you assumed would never re-emerge. The valor you assumed had perished. The purity that sorrow attempted to pilfer. All these are being renewed too. Because when the divine renews, it doesn't halt at superficial favors. It contacts the inner self. It reconstructs the core. It restores the recollections that once shattered you. Envision a horticultural space devastated by winter. Everything appears deceased. But spring doesn't solely bring blossoms. It rejuvenates the terrain, softens the ground, summons aroma and hue anew. That's what the Almighty is executing inside you, rejuvenating the internal terrain so that your external bounty will be profuse. Therefore, celebrate not solely for what approaches, but for what already agitates within. Your renewal commences from the interior outward. A celestial inversion of circumstances is already activated. The identical locations where you were dismissed will shortly become the precise platforms of your acknowledgement. Those who undervalued you, who chuckled discreetly at your hardships, will be astonished as your narrative progresses. This isn't vengeance. This isn't about demonstrating their error. It's about the Almighty disclosing Himself through you in a manner that no one can refute His touch upon your existence. For when circumstances invert, it's not your arrogance that's elevated. It's His splendor that's showcased. Examine Joseph anew. Traded into bondage by his siblings, ridiculed and discarded. He appeared as nothing beyond an overlooked visionary. But when scarcity afflicted the territory, it was Joseph who possessed the keys to endurance. His siblings submitted before him, not because he demanded it, but because fate had inscribed it ages prior. What they intended for malice had been metamorphosed into benevolence. That identical framework flows through your narrative. What was intended to entomb you will elevate you. What was intended to hush you will amplify your expression. The sacred texts affirm this assurance. The book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20 states that you planned to injure me, but the Almighty planned it for benevolence to achieve what is presently being accomplished, the preservation of numerous existences. This passage isn't merely a chronicle, it's foretelling. It bears witness that the Almighty seizes human intents, even the gloomiest, and inverts them into tools of fate. Envision a strategy board. Elements are positioned tactically, frequently in manners that appear perplexing or even disadvantageous initially. But upon the plan's progression, the ultimate victory discloses that every maneuver contributed to triumph. That's what the Almighty has been executing with your existence, the reversals, the postponements, the disloyalties. They've all been maneuvers toward a celestial victory. There existed a gentleman who was derided by his associates, overlooked for advancements, and discreetly ridiculed privately. He bore his anguish quietly, but he declined to compromise his integrity. Years subsequently, when the enterprise confronted a dilemma, the identical individuals who disregarded him turned to him for resolutions. His steadfast character became the support they required. What once appeared as frailty was disclosed as resilience. That's the inversion of circumstances. Chosen one. You might not perceive it yet, but the foundation beneath you is transforming. The chuckles of your adversaries are poised to be muted, not because you retaliated, but because the Almighty Himself is elevating you. The identical platform where you sensed diminutive will be the platform where His splendor gleams through you. Envision a feast table. At one extremity sit those who questioned you, conversing confidently, convinced your position would stay vacant. Abruptly, the organizer arrives and positions you at the forefront. The whispers cease. No one can interrogate the organizer's choice. That's what the divine is coordinating: an elevation that defies argument, a placement that defies denial. The inversion of circumstances is frequently abrupt. One day Joseph resided in confinement. The next, he was deputy commander. One day Esther was obscured in the residence. The next, she positioned before the sovereign, preserving her kin. One day David was a herdsman in the pastures. The next, he was consecrated before all his siblings. Avoid scorning the anticipation, because when the inversion arrives, it will occur swiftly. And upon occurrence, recall this: it's not to nourish arrogance, but to fulfill intent. The inversion of circumstances isn't about displaying triumph. It's about entering fate. Joseph didn't utilize his status to penalize his siblings. He utilized it to sustain them. Your elevation will bear identical significance. It's not about vengeance, but reclamation. Therefore, maintain stability. Avoid weariness amid anticipation. The chuckles of your adversaries don't characterize your narrative's conclusion. The mutterings of your detractors cannot annul the divine's ordinance. The circumstances are already inverting, and upon inversion, your existence will bear witness that every postponement merited it. Chosen one. Ready yourself not for vengeance, not for superficial commendation, but for the juncture when the Almighty's touch is disclosed so vividly in your existence that even your adversaries will submit to His splendor. And upon submission, it won't be to you. It will be to the Creator who sustained you, who preserved you, who inverted the circumstances for His splendor, not yours. That's affirmation. That's fate. As you approach your disclosure, the conflict intensifies. Shadows don't expend effort combating what poses no menace. The mere reality that the resistance against you has strengthened confirms that you're nearing advancement. You've sensed it, the abrupt heaviness in the environment, the unforeseen reversals that materialize precisely when momentum builds, the subtle mutterings of uncertainty that infiltrate your thoughts. These aren't haphazard. They represent the outbursts of a frantic adversary striking out because it recognizes its hold is loosening. Ethereal conflict isn't perpetually clamorous. Occasionally, it's the subdued burden of despondency. Occasionally, it's the gradual deterioration of assurance. Occasionally, it's the persistent prompt of prior shortcomings. But be assured these are conflicts, and they occur because you bear illumination that shadows cannot endure. The sacred texts address this distinctly. The letter to the Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12 explains that our contention isn't against physical entities, but against overlords, against dominions, against the potentates of this obscure realm, and against the ethereal forces of malevolence in the celestial domains. This clarifies why you can't afford to view your conflicts solely in human contexts. The struggle surpasses individuals or situations. It's a confrontation between illumination and gloom fate, and annihilation verity and deceit. And you chosen one position centrally as a receptacle of illumination. Envision a beacon positioned on a tempest-ravaged coastline. Surges collide, gusts bellow, gloom encircles, yet the beam persists in gleaming. Vessels afar don't dread the tempest provided they discern the ray from the beacon. That's you even amid opposition's fury. Your illumination continues to direct, to disrupt, to preserve. Reflect also upon Daniel in the predator's enclosure. His adversaries schemed hoping the creatures would consume him. Yet upon dawn, Daniel remained unscathed because the divine had dispatched messengers to seal the predator's jaws. That narrative isn't merely a chronicle. It's a vibrant prompt that no shadowy force can annihilate what the divine has preserved. Your conflicts aren't evidence of desertion. They serve as testimony to your mission. Adversity doesn't aim at the vacant. It aims at the receptacle bearing essence, and your essence is precious. That's why the struggle has been so vehement. There existed a lady who endured perpetual critique and dismissal. Each advancement was countered with fresh barriers. But rather than collapsing under the strain, she mastered deeper entreaty, firmer trust, steadfast positioning. Ultimately, her tenacity became the precise instrument that dismantled the assaults. What was intended to shatter her became the preparation arena that constructed her. Similarly, for you, what you confront presently isn't the conclusion, it's the honing. A warrior doesn't enter combat unprepared. Each confrontation you endure readies your essence for the command you'll embody. Envision an arch drawn rearward. The tauter the cord is pulled, the greater the momentum upon the projectile's release. The strain is discomforting, even agonizing, but it's essential for the projectile to attain its objective. That's your existence presently. The strain you experience isn't intended to annihilate you. It's intended to propel you. Chosen ones maintain stability. The tempest might bellow louder, but tempests never endure eternally. The strain might register as intolerable, but strain perpetually precedes liberation. The gloom might persist, but illumination perpetually triumphs. And recall this, you don't contend solitarily. The Creator who preserved Daniel in the enclosure, who divided the waters for Moses, who elevated the Savior from the sepulchre, is the identical Creator who positions you. His presence serves as your barrier, His declaration of your weapon. His essence is your potency. Therefore, avoid dreading this conflict's intensity. It's an indicator that you're on sanctified terrain, that fate is nearer than previously. When gloom rages, it's because illumination is poised to penetrate. Elevate your vision beyond the struggle. Perceive the coronet beyond the flames, the witness beyond the ordeal, the splendor beyond the anguish. For the conflict is vehement, but your triumph is already inscribed. And upon the haze's dissipation, your position not agitated, not shattered, but more robust, more luminous, crowned with the testimony that the conflict was never squandered. Each mark will articulate endurance, each sorrow will gleam as witness, and each struggle will validate this verity: you were never contending for defeat. You were contending toward fate irrepressible. That's your identity. Not because you've never faltered, not because existence has been effortless, but because each falter has transformed into an advancement. Each injury has become insight. Each conflict has disclosed that the divine's touch rests upon you. A passage captures this variety's core. The book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, proclaims that no instrument against you will succeed. This is the legacy of the sovereign's attendants. Instruments were fashioned indeed. Statements were uttered indeed, but they didn't succeed. They cannot succeed because you chosen ones are irrepressible. Reflect upon. A stream boulders might attempt to obstruct it. Timber might collapse across its trajectory, but still it courses. It discovers a path around sculpting novel roots, generating cascades, nurturing all in its trajectory. That's you. Irrepressible, unyielding sculpting novel paths where none previously existed. Your existence bears significance. Your perseverance is foretelling, and your path bears witness that fate cannot be refuted. Now, permit me to express from my core with tender depictions. If this communication impacts you, let your reply resemble a luminary elevated into the nocturnal firmament. A straightforward approval is that luminary, a minor blaze that ascends, uniting others to illuminate the skies. When you select approval, you're not merely interacting, you're dispatching an illumination that assists this communication to soar farther than solitary capacity. And consider the coastline where surges encounter sand. Each surge leaves a vestige, a mark observable to others. When you distribute this communication, it's akin to dispatching a surge outward. It contacts shores you might never traverse, reaching essences you might never encounter, but leaving marks of upliftment that cannot be eradicated. And if you haven't yet joined as a follower, view it like discovering a position at a cozy blaze on a chilly evening. Joining means securing your spot, so the warmth persists in reaching you. Your expression matters too. When you remark even succinctly, it's akin to implanting kernels in a meadow. Minor kernels, perhaps unobserved initially, but eventually they mature into arbors beneath which others may repose. Your statements aren't squandered. They bear vitality. And if you sense summoned solely if your essence prompts, contemplate becoming integral to the lubricant that sustains this blaze. Contribute as freely as introducing liquid into a parched horticultural space. Not compulsion, not exchange, but involvement in something that courses beyond yourself. Each droplet introduced becomes sustenance, permitting this endeavor to thrive and reach those still meandering in the wasteland of despondency. You are never diminished if contributing eludes you. You are never excluded if listening is your sole capacity. The bestowal isn't mandated. It's enticed like an available position at the feast. Whether you occupy solely your presence or bring sustenance to distribute, you integrate the kin. Still envision a grand woven fabric extended across duration. Each strand is required to disclose the complete depiction. Some strands are vivid, some somber, some extended, some brief, but each signifies your approval, your distribution, your statements, your bestowal. They represent strands interlaced into the broader design. Absent them, the depiction is unfinished. With them, elegance progresses. This explains my gentle request, never with coercion, because affection never compels, affection entices, fate never pressures. And this juncture is merely an enticement to integrate the current. But whether you reply with a luminary, a surge ablaze position, a kernel, or a liquid droplet, the paramount variety persists. You are irrepressible. Your path itself is the witness. Envision a peak. Gusts assault it, precipitation erodes, yet it positions immobile. Seasons transition, but the peak endures. That's you established upon a bedrock that cannot be agitated. Regardless of what has assailed you, you persist here, still ascending, still selected. Chosen one, accept this irrepressible isn't what you're evolving into, it's what you already embody. Each ordeal has disclosed it. Each mark has validated it. Each instant you elected to persist when cessation seemed simpler has proclaimed it irrepressible. And shortly others will observe it too, not because you demanded acclaim, but because the divine's illumination upon you cannot be concealed. And upon that illumination's gleaming, it won't extinguish. It will extend. It will be restored. It will bear witness that the irrepressible blaze within you was perpetually the divine's architecture. There arrives a juncture when the phase of concealment concludes and the cloak of commissioning is bestowed upon your frame. For years you sensed sheltered, preserved, nearly invisible to others' perceptions. But invisibility was never intended to endure eternally. It represented solely the readiness stage prior to your disclosure. Commissioning differs from summons. A summons murmurs fate to your essence, but commissioning dispatches you onward with command. A summons rouses desire, but commissioning bestows the significance of the divine's mission upon you. This is your current position, the brink where the Almighty declares, "Proceed, articulate, gleam, construct, bear, heal." Examine Moses. For 40 years he meandered in the wasteland, tending livestock distant from the residence he once recognized. To many it appeared as inadequacy, yet truthfully it was readiness. At the flaming shrub, the juncture of commissioning arrived. No longer would he persist obscured in the arid land. The divine proclaimed it was the era to confront the ruler and guide a civilization to liberation. The rod in his grasp became more than an implement. It became an emblem of celestial command. Similarly for you. The rod bestowed in your grasp might not appear substantial initially, a skill, a witness, a statement of upliftment, a core that declines to cease, but under the divine's commissioning, even the simplest endowment becomes a weapon of illumination, an emblem of command, a conduit of advancement for others. Sacred text addresses this dispatching. The Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 21, records that as the progenitor has dispatched me, I am dispatching you. The Grand Commission isn't reserved for a select. It rests upon every selected individual. You integrate this current. You aren't dispatched in your personal potency, but in the presence of the entity who assured perpetual companionship. Envision a flame carrier in a relay competition. For extended duration, they positioned a waiting flame unignited, observing others advance. But abruptly, the blaze is transferred to them, and they commence running, not in another's path, not bearing another's illumination, but with the blaze entrusted to them. That's what's occurring presently. The blaze has been positioned in your grasp, and the divine is summoning you to bear it. This commissioning might register heavily initially. Accountability perpetually does, but recall you don't bear it solitarily. Just as supporters upheld Moses' limbs when they fatigued, so too will the Almighty provide potency, assistance, and fellowship around you as you enter your mission. There existed a lady who questioned her expression for years. She persisted mute, convinced others were superiorly equipped. But one day she was requested to distribute her narrative with a modest assembly. To her astonishment, her statements shattered restraints in the auditors. That juncture became her commissioning. From then, she bore her expression not as insecurity, but as command. You too might discover your commissioning in what once registered as a minor, chosen one. This juncture indicates a transformation. You aren't merely enduring phases of anguish anymore. You're entering the current of intent dispatched as a marker for others. You represent a flame carrier, a courier, a receptacle of the divine splendor. Envision a stream penetrating a barrier. For years, the liquids were restrained, obscured, mute. But upon the obstruction's rupture, the flow surges onward with irrepressible momentum, bringing vitality to every location it contacts. That's your commission. The barriers have vanished and the flow has initiated. Avoid retreating. Avoid questioning your sufficiency. Commissioning was never about your flawlessness. It's about the divine's intent. The entity who dispatches you is the entity who equips you. The command resting upon you isn't delicate. It's crafted in the flames you've already endured. Therefore, advance. Articulate when the divine prompts. Proceed when the essence agitates. Position when fear murmurs withdraw. This is your commissioning. This is your juncture. And the identical voice that summoned Moses, the identical command that dispatched Esther, the identical essence that empowered the followers, rests now upon you. And upon entering it, you'll notice something exquisite. The entrances that once remained sealed will open widely. The voices that once hushed you will fall quiet. And the terrain that once registered unstable will become firm beneath your strides. Because commissioning isn't delicate, it's definitive. The divine has already articulated, and the trajectory before you is no longer obscured. It is illuminated with the blaze of intent and the certainty of fate. There exists a hallowed quietude that arrives just prior to insight, as though the divine itself restrains its respiration awaiting the disclosure. You might sense it presently, the conviction that everything encircling has decelerated, that invisible guidances are reorganizing elements, that something profound is poised to surge forth. This isn't your fancy. It's celestial coordination, the years of concealment, the phases of examination, the flames, the ordeals, the anticipation, they all converge into this juncture of unveiling. What once was hidden is now prepared to be disclosed. Reflect upon a kernel interred in the terrain. For weeks, perhaps, months, no indication of vitality exists. The terrain persists still, the exterior undisturbed. Yet beneath something hallowed transpires. Foundations extend. Vitality agitates. Potency forms. Then abruptly the terrain fissures, and the initial sprout penetrates upward. What appeared invisible was perpetually alive, merely awaiting the opportune juncture to penetrate. That's you, chosen one. The fissuring of the terrain has initiated. The sacred texts whisper this verity. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, states that the insight anticipates a designated era. It addresses the conclusion and won't demonstrate falsity. Although it tarries anticipated, it will assuredly arrive and won't postpone. Your insight possesses a designated era. It might have tarried, but postponement isn't denial. The vision is vital and it's advancing toward its juncture. Here is the fully corrected, polished, and expanded version, now approximately 5 times longer than the original, written in natural, eloquent American English, while preserving every ounce of the original spirit and power. Imagine a master artisan working in complete secrecy behind a heavy velvet curtain. To everyone on the outside, it looks like absolutely nothing is happening. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, maybe even years. There's no sound, no glimpse, no hint of progress. People walk by and whisper, "What's he even doing in there?" Some give up and stop caring altogether. But then, one appointed day, the curtain is dramatically pulled back and the breath of every onlooker is stolen in a single instant. What they see is breathtaking, a masterpiece so intricate, so radiant, so perfectly formed that no one can deny its magnificence. Every hidden brushstroke, every late-night struggle, every painstaking layer that was added in total obscurity suddenly makes perfect sense. The long silence wasn't emptiness. It was preparation. That, my friend, is exactly what your grand unveiling is going to feel like. The same people who saw nothing happening for years will suddenly be confronted with everything undeniable, overwhelming, and gloriously complete. There was once a man who spent decades writing in the shadows. His desk was lit only by a small lamp. His audience was the blank page and the quiet of the night. For years, not a single soul read his words. Publishers rejected him. Friends thought he was wasting his time. The family worried he was chasing a dream that would never come true. Yet every evening, without fail, he returned to that desk. He wrote when he was tired, when he was discouraged, when hope felt thin. He remained faithful in the unseen. Then, in one divinely orchestrated moment, the curtain was pulled back on his life. A door opened. His work was discovered, and those words he had poured out in solitude, words that once echoed only in an empty room, began to touch, heal, and transform thousands upon thousands of lives. The decades of silence were not wasted. They were not punished. They were the forging ground, the refining fire, the sacred preparation for a season of sudden massive impact. Your story is following the exact same pattern. What feels like delay is actually design. Chosen one, listen closely. Your unveiling will not be partial. It will not be a faint flicker or a half-hearted glimpse. It will be total, brilliant, and blinding in the best possible way. The longer you've had to wait, the louder the revelation will resound. Every scar you carry will suddenly shine like a diamond under the light of purpose. Every tear you've cried will be seen as the fuel that kept your fire burning when everything else went cold. Every valley you've walked through alone will become the fertile soil where your greatest testimony grows tall and strong for the world to see. The depth of your night will only magnify the brightness of your dawn. Picture the morning after the longest, darkest night you've ever known. For hours, sometimes what feels like forever, the darkness has ruled. The air is heavy, almost suffocating. Hope feels distant, almost impossible. The whole world seems silent, as if it's holding its breath. Then right when despair feels strongest, a tiny sliver of light appears on the horizon. At first, it's just a whisper of gold, barely noticeable. But moment by moment, it grows, spreading, rising, until suddenly the entire sky is flooded with warm, glorious sunrise. No one stands there doubting whether the sun will come up. No one questions its power or its timing. It always rises faithfully, relentlessly, beautifully. That is precisely what your breakthrough will be. The night has felt endless, yes, but the dawn is already breaking. The light is piercing through, and here's the most beautiful part. This unveiling isn't ultimately about your glory. It's about the glory of the one who kept you alive through every storm, who held you when you couldn't hold yourself, who whispered purpose into your pain when no one else was listening. When the curtain finally rises on your life, people won't just see you standing there. They'll see the fingerprints of God all over your story. They won't marvel merely at your resilience. They'll stand in awe of the one who sustained you, who turned your mourning into dancing, who transformed your mess into a message and your test into a testimony. They'll see that every detail was woven together by a master who never wasted a single moment of your waiting. But here's the deeper truth that will set your heart on fire. The unveiling is never the end of the story. It's only the beginning. A seed doesn't stop at the moment it breaks through the soil. It stretches toward the sky and becomes a mighty tree whose branches offer shade and fruit for generations. The sunrise doesn't end with the first light. It ushers in an entire day filled with possibility, activity, and beauty. In the same way, your breakthrough is not the finish line. It's the starting line of something far greater than you've ever dared to dream. Doors you never even knew existed will swing wide open. Assignments that feel too big, too beautiful, too perfect will be placed in your hands. Influence you never imagined will flow through you. Joy that once seemed impossible will become your daily reality. The season ahead will be heavier, in the best way, weighty with purpose, rich with meaning, overflowing with the kind of life that makes every previous struggle feel worth it 1,000 times over. So keep going, keep trusting, keep creating in the dark. The curtain is already trembling. The light is already gathering. Your unveiling is closer than you think, and when it comes, the whole world will see what heaven has been crafting in you all along. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are being prepared for a moment that will take everyone's breath away. The best is yet to come. Therefore, avoid retreating as the unveiling approaches. Avoid permitting fear to convince you to persist concealed. You are prepared. The divine has articulated. The designated era is present. Chosen one. What was hidden is poised to be disclosed. What was murmured covertly is poised to be proclaimed from elevations. What was interred beneath years of quietude is poised to ascend in splendor. And upon occurrence, doubt will vanish, not in your core, not in theirs, that the Almighty Himself coordinated every detail. Your unveiling is present. Enter it with valor. And upon entering, the divine will resonate. The terrain will reply. Entrances will open. And even those who once questioned will have no option but to observe. The unveiling isn't solely for you. It's for lineages that will be impacted through your compliance. Your valor today will illuminate a trajectory for those following. Your insight will shatter restraints for those still constrained. Your witness will nourish the kernels of conviction in others. Chosen ones ascend. The veil has elevated. The realm awaits the resonance of your unveiling. You've traversed this communication progressively core to core. Each statement has been a prompt that you aren't overlooked, not deserted, not commonplace. You are selected. Your narrative is progressing precisely as the divine intended. And your unveiling isn't distant. It's present, respiring at your reality's boundaries. But permit me to inquire gently if this message agitated something within you. Why permit the blaze to persist? Hidden, a straightforward approval is a spark, a blaze elevated high. When you select it, you're not merely reacting. You're assisting illumination to extend where gloom persists. And just imagine this for a moment. Sharing this message is like passing a bright, glowing beacon through the darkest night. That one person whose hand you may never get to hold, whose story you might never fully hear or understand, could suddenly find a spark of real hope, simply because you made the choice to send this light a little farther down the road. It doesn't take much from you, just a quick share, a simple forward, a tap on your screen. But that small action can travel across cities, countries, and even oceans, landing right in front of someone who's been sitting alone in the dark, wondering if anyone out there cares. Your decision to keep this flame moving could be the exact moment their whole world starts to feel a little less heavy, a little more possible. Your own words carry so much life in them too. When you leave a comment, even if it's just a short one, like "I needed this today," or "You're not alone," it's like gently placing a smooth pebble along a winding forest trail. Those little stones become clear, comforting markers for everyone else who's walking the same tough path behind you. They look down, see your pebble, and suddenly realize, hey, someone else has been right here feeling exactly what I'm feeling. It's proof that they're not the only ones struggling, not the only ones fighting to keep going. Maybe all you write is a couple of honest sentences from the heart. Nothing fancy, nothing long. But those few words can wrap around someone else's shaking, uncertain heart, like a warm hug, and steady it, calm it, remind it to keep beating strong, just a little longer. And if something deep inside your soul is whispering right now, if you feel that quiet nudge, that gentle pull, please consider supporting this mission in whatever way feels right to you. This isn't about pressure or obligation. Think of it more like pouring fresh, cool water onto dry, cracked ground that's been thirsty for far too long. Every single drop you give, whether it's a small donation, a monthly pledge, or even just sharing more often, becomes pure, life-giving energy for the tiny seeds we're planting together. Those seeds are going to grow into something beautiful, something strong, something that reaches far beyond anything we can picture today. They'll turn into shade for the weary, fruit for the hungry, and shelter for the lost. It's not a demand on your time or your wallet. It's a heartfelt invitation to step into something so much bigger than any one of us. A movement, a family, a wave of kindness that keeps rolling forward because people like you said yes. Finally, if you haven't already, come hit that follow button and make this your home. Picture it as finding your perfect spot, right by a crackling campfire on a chilly night. When you follow, you're pulling up a cozy chair and staying close to the warmth. You're making sure this steady stream of encouragement, truth, and upliftment keeps flowing straight to you whenever you need it most, keeping your own fire bright and strong, even on the hardest days. It's a simple click that says, I'm in. I want to stay connected. I want this light in my life every day. Chosen one, listen closely. You are absolutely unstoppable. You are resilient beyond words, unbreakable in ways you might not even see yet. And you shine brighter than you know. Let your beautiful light join this ever-growing, ever-brighter light we're building together. Hand in hand, heart to heart, we become a blazing wildfire of hope that no darkness, no fear, no doubt, no storm can ever put out. Together, darkness doesn't stand a chance, not even a little. So come on, pass the beacon, drop your pebble, pour your water, take your seat by the fire, and let's keep shining. The world is waiting for your light, and it's never been more ready.